Powerful radar Doppler to follow this weekend storm right down to your street. Go to the App Store, search WBFF to get started. A convicted felon on the run again this morning. The effort to track him down in this morning's Maryland Most Wanted. You're watching Fox 45 Morning News, all local, all morning.
All right, welcome back, everybody. 7:10 is your time right now on your Saturday morning. I'm meteorologist Justin Chambers. I want to talk about what's going on with Ophelia. Just made landfall about 6:15 this morning near North Carolina, in Emerald Isle, North Carolina. So we're going to be tracking Ophelia. The heavy rain and wind, we're already seeing some of those outer bands and even the potential for some coastal flooding. There's the center of the storm right there in your HD radar. You can see that's New Bern, North Carolina, just to the east of Jacksonville and south of Greenville, North Carolina. But look how those outer bands extend to us right here in Baltimore as we zoom in. Now, notice that line of heavier rain. Some of you on the eastern shore and down through Anne Arundel County have already seen the rain. You're getting a break, and the rest of us are getting hit with that heavier rain bands that continue basically right along the 95 corridor. That's going to push off toward the north and to the west. So all of us will get a break. And Olivia was talking about a little bit of a lull in the action that we'll see over the next few hours. But as you rise and shine with us here on your Saturday, maybe staying inside and enjoying that cup of joe and some breakfast as well with us here. Next couple of hours, not really getting too much better. Now, we'll put the track on that, show you exactly how that's going to impact you the rest of the weekend, especially for tomorrow when we're expecting more rain and wind from our next weather maker. Back to you.
In a city in crisis, Maryland U.S. Attorney Eric Barron sat down with political commentator Armstrong Williams. He talked about progress in Baltimore's crime fight. He says homicides are down 20% in the city and attributes it to expanding his department's partnerships with prosecutors and law enforcement across the state.
Today, Baltimore City is down 20+% in homicides, I think 10+% in non-fatal shootings. But it's not just in Baltimore City, it's throughout the state. And in Prince George's, we're down, I think as of today, down 10% in homicides. So we've taken that on as an office in an unprecedented to an unprecedented degree. And we've shown that, as a team, federal, state, and local, and community, we really can make a difference, and we are.
Barron has been using an Al Capone approach to crime for a little more than a year now, using other federal offenses like fraud or having a gun in school zone to get violent offenders off the streets. You can find more on Barron's efforts on our website, FOX45.com.
We have a system that's just running rogue, and it starts at the top.
How Baltimore City students fared in the latest round of state test results. After the break, Project Baltimore is going to break down the latest test data and what it all means. And we're taking you live to Ocean City right now as we track Tropical Storm Ophelia. We'll be checking back in with Olivia Dance in the next 15 minutes and give you an update on the weather conditions there. Stick with us here at Fox 45 Morning News, all local, all morning. The latest round of state test results show Baltimore City students are struggling in math. A Project Baltimore investigation from Chris Papps found 40% of high school students who took the state exam did not pass. In fact, that's not a single student in each.
Jason Rodriguez.
This is educational homicide.
Is with people empowered by the struggle.
There is no excuse.
In 2021,
enough is enough.
The Baltimore-based nonprofit held rallies calling on Baltimore City School CEO Dr. Sonia Santelises to resign over low test scores, falling graduation rates, and a lack of transparency. Now, after seeing what Project Baltimore just discovered, Rodriguez is renewing those calls.
We have a system that's just running rogue, and it starts at the top.
Rodriguez is reacting to these new 2023 state test scores, which have not yet been released to the public. Fox 45 obtained them through a source in Baltimore City schools. The unredacted state test results at every school in the city. And what we found is hard to believe. Students took the test in the spring of 2023. Just a few months ago, we found 13 city high schools where not one student who took the state math test scored proficient. Not one student. These are the 13 schools, which include some of the city's most well-known high schools like Patterson, Frederick Douglass, and Reginald F. Lewis. In total, students at 33 high schools took the state math exam last spring. In our analysis, we are not including Eager Street Academy because it's located inside the Baltimore City Detention Center. Of the 32 high schools remaining, if 13 had 0 students test proficient, that means 40% of all Baltimore City high schools could not produce a single student who's doing math at grade level. But that's not the only alarming finding we made. In these 13 high schools, more than 1,700 students took the test, and nearly 1,300, or 74.5%, scored a 1 out of 4, the lowest level, meaning those students are not even close to being proficient. And keep in mind, last school year, Baltimore City schools received $1.6 billion from taxpayers, the most ever. The district also received an additional $799 million from the federal government in COVID relief funding. Yet still, not a single student at 13 city high schools tested proficient in math.
So it's not a funding issue. We're getting plenty of funding. I don't think money is the issue. I think accountability is the issue.
6 years ago, in 2017, Project Baltimore produced a similar report where we analyzed state test scores and found 13 city schools had 0 students proficient in math. And many of the schools from 2017 are also on the 2023 list, including Achievement Academy, Coppin Academy, Frederick Douglass, New Era, Patterson, and the Reach.
We're still dealing with these same issues year after year. It's just scary to me and alarming to me because we know that what's happening now, it's just opening up the floodgates to the school to prison pipeline.
City schools will not do an interview to discuss these results. Instead, we received a statement which states, "We acknowledge that some of our high school students continue to experience challenges in math following the pandemic." The statement also said recent increases in funding have increased student achievement. The district says in 7 of 8 grade levels, math proficiencies increased in 2023 compared to 2022.
I'm beyond angry. This is why we've been calling for the resignation of the school CEO.
It's important to note we're only able to report these test scores to the public because a source gave them to us. When the state officially releases them later this month, the results will be heavily redacted, making it more difficult for parents to see how poorly many schools are performing. Earlier this year, the state began further redacting state test scores after Project Baltimore reported on last year's poor outcomes. With State Superintendent Mohammed Chaudhry no longer seeking a second term, we asked the school board if it plans to reverse course and make more information concerning test scores available to the public. We were told the board has no comment. But when we were looking at the test scores we do have, we made another stunning discovery. Coming up on Wednesday on Fox 45 News, we'll tell you what we learned about the top 5 performing high schools in the city. I'm Chris Pabst, and this is Project Baltimore.
All right, we're back and we're tracking Tropical Storm Ophelia. That storm making landfall in the last hour near Emerald Isle, North Carolina. Bands of rain are pushing up the East Coast, and we're tracking your live local conditions with a live look here over the Inner Harbor. You see Towson as well. It's foggy out there. 695 on your bottom right-hand corner, and Ocean City, where we have Olivia Dance. We'll have coverage from her in just a minute. But let's get over to meteorologist Justin Chambers with a look at what we're expecting here at home.
Yeah, Taylor, we've already seen some of those outer bands that have been bringing the rain showers in, the moderate to heavy rain showers. We saw that driving shot from our storm tracker that is out there on 695. And I can attest, driving in this morning, there was a lot of ponding on the roadways from the heavier rain that's rolled in just in the last hour or so. So make sure, probably just stay indoors today if you can. If you have to get out, just make sure to be extra careful because we are tracking Ophelia, the heavy rain and wind and that coastal flooding that will continue to be possible, especially as all this rain moves in. This is a look at our HD radar right now. So the heaviest rain is on a line from Elkton all the way down the 95 corridor through Baltimore City and County, all the way down through Gaithersburg and out toward Frederick. Notice areas to the eastern shore and down in Anne Arundel counties, you're getting a little bit of a break from some of those rain showers that you've seen. So as we pull out a little bit farther, that rain extends all the way out toward the west. Not much in the way of lightning strikes, so that's good that we just have this steady rain that we're seeing right now. There is the center of Ophelia, and as Taylor mentioned, just made landfall 6:15 this morning with 70-mile-an-hour sustained winds. We were talking last night about how it could get to hurricane strength. It was just kind of right there on the edge. 75 is what it would have had to get to become a hurricane. But either way, all of the impacts from Ophelia we're already feeling and will continue to feel as we go into the next couple of hours. Now, I don't know if you can see that right there, but I drew a line, basically the distance from the center or the eye of the storm up to Baltimore City, almost 300 miles. So that's how close this thing is. And we know on the East Coast, everything's sort of kind of jammed in together. So it doesn't take long for this storm system to continue to move up. We have aerial flood watches. We've got tropical storm warnings all up and down the East Coast. Gale warnings continue in the Chesapeake. We've got wind advisories here for us at home as well. And coastal flood warnings we're already seeing in parts of Anne Arundel County and those low-lying areas. That's what we're looking at. So the track on this system, again, 70-mile-an-hour winds. We've seen 85-mile-an-hour gusts. So we haven't even seen the strongest wind yet. And this is going to track up through Raleigh and into Richmond through early tomorrow morning. More than likely, by the time it gets over the Chesapeake here, by late Sunday afternoon, it will still be tropical depression Ophelia before it kind of makes that right turn and heads out over toward the eastern shore and out toward the Atlantic. So we still could see a 1 to 3 foot storm surge here up and down the Chesapeake. That's what we're looking at. And with that those low-lying areas, that's what we have to watch for. This is our future scan. Again, this is about 9-10 o'clock this morning. Notice we get a bit of a break from some of the rain, but that heavier rain and those bands will start to pick up again into the afternoon, as will the wind. And you can see all of the yellow and orange right there. That's some of the moderate to heavy rain through Saturday night. And then as we get a break in the overnight hours, early tomorrow morning, about this time, we'll see more of that rain that's going to be in our Sunday. This is about 10 o'clock Sunday morning with more of a southerly wind that's going to be as that system moves through. So we still have a lot to get through here. And again, that wind will continue to pick up. Here's a look at our 7-day forecast. It doesn't look like we need a weather alert day tomorrow, but if you are going to that Ravens game, it is going to be windy and wet. No doubt about that. And then by Monday and Tuesday of next week, we'll still see some of that cloud cover left over, but we are drier. And notice our temperatures staying on the cooler side. By the way, it is now autumn officially. So we are definitely ushering in autumn with those cooler temperatures.
Unfortunately, another rough night for our Orioles. Oh my goodness. Their first division crown since 2014 is so close, but we'll let you know where things stand right now in the AL East. That's just ahead in Sports Unlimited. You're watching Fox 45 Morning News, all local, all morning. All right, rainy days are pretty good for shopping. Julie Morgan has a look at today's America's Steals and Deals.
The following segment is sponsored by Naki.
It is so unfortunate that 1 in 3 women will be assaulted in their lifetime, and that is a very scary statistic. And that's why I love Bling Sting, because you can feel safe and look fashionable all at the same time. And I insist that both my daughters carry this pepper spray because it's maximum strength, and it has a 12-foot direct range. It also has a UV marking device that stains the target for up to 48 hours, which is really helpful for police to identify the attacker. That is really, really unique. And all it takes is one quick spray in the assailant's face to make them stop. It's also portable and it's easy to conceal, which I just did if you don't want anybody to see it. And they come in all these bright colors. They got camo too, so many patterns that you can pick your style, and you can clip it anywhere. Like you can clip it to your backpack, you can belt loop, purse, wherever. And you know, this product gives me peace of mind knowing I'm protecting my daughters and myself. And right now, this is really, really great. We are offering 25% off the Bling Sting pepper spray. So head to asadeals.com for this exclusive offer. They're gonna go fast, so you wanna get this right away.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 Morning News.
All right, we're back with a live look over the Inner Harbor, Towson, Ocean City, as well as the Beltway. Tropical storm Ophelia has already made landfall in North Carolina with winds hitting 70 miles per hour. We're already seeing heavy rain and damaging wind throughout Maryland this morning. Thanks for being with us this Saturday, September 22nd. I'm Taylor Stewart. We've got live team coverage from Baltimore to the beach. In just a few minutes, Olivia Dance is going to join us live with the conditions from Ocean City. But first, we've got meteorologist Justin Chambers in studio with what you need to know to brace for this storm. Good morning, Justin.
Yeah, good morning, Taylor, and good morning, everyone. It is the 23rd of September, and it is also the first day of autumn, as autumn arrived early this morning, right along with Ophelia, the tropical storm that did make landfall about 6:15 this morning near parts of Emerald Isle, North Carolina. Now, heavy rain and wind is what we're going to continue to see here. We're already seeing some of that, and coastal flooding possible, all on our weather alert day. Check our Towson cam right now. This is what it looks like. A lot of rain and that wind that is also out there at this moment. Now, this is our HD radar. Notice the heavier rain is right along the 95 corridor from Cecil County right through Baltimore and Harford County, all the way out toward Howard and Carroll County as well. Areas to the southeast and the eastern shore and down through Anne Arundel County. You're getting a break from the rain now, but that will be short-lived. There's the center of the storm, the eye right there, just south of Greenville, North Carolina, again, as it made landfall. But look at those outer bands, about 300 miles away from the center of the storm right now is where we are, and this will continue to track and get over land. Now, it'll lose some of its strength as it gets over land, but it's going to continue to track to the north and bring us more of that wind and rain. And we're already seeing that. Look at that, 20 and 30-mile-an-hour wind gusts, especially for you on the eastern shore, Bel Air, Stevensville, the Bay Bridge, 32-mile-an-hour gusts just reported in Annapolis. So the wind is already blowing that rain out there. And our temperatures are on the cooler side. Mid to upper 50s is where we are right now. We're really not going to get out of the 50s much, maybe sliding into the 60s through the middle part of the day, but we're not talking about the temperatures. We're just talking about the rain. And temps tomorrow will also be in the 60s with more of that rain. Finally, by Monday, we'll start to get some drier conditions here as we get into that first full week of fall. And we'll have another look at that full forecast for you coming up in just a few minutes from right now. Taylor?
Thank you, Justin. We're taking you live right now to Ocean City, where people are bracing for potential flooding, winds up to 60 miles per hour. Olivia Dance joins us live right now with the conditions out there, and you can already see that wind, the ocean whipping behind you. What's it looking like, Olivia?
Yeah, good morning, Taylor. Ocean just behind me here. We're going to walk and give you a better look of that in just a few seconds. But right here, this is North Baltimore Avenue. You can see all the way down, that's towards the boardwalk. And not a lot of traffic. We've seen a couple cars out there this morning, but that's about it. So that is North Baltimore Avenue, and then just right over here to the right is Coastal Highway. Not seeing any flooding on either of these roads right now, which is great. So, because it is raining, but right now we're almost in a lull because a few minutes ago it got darker, the rain was coming down really heavy, and the wind was blowing, and that's just from these bands that are coming in and out. But right now, the rain has slowed down just a little bit. We're still getting those heavy wind gusts. We're actually in the parking garage of our hotel right now, seeking a little bit of shelter before we go closer to the beach. But I want to show you, we're heading over here to the other side. There's some flooding over here from the parking garage, just the wind bringing that rain in. Only a couple inches, but it just shows you how powerful the wind and rain was overnight. You could hear it howling in our hotel room. Pretty crazy. And Chris, he's operating our camera, one of our photojournalists here. He's going to pan out and show you another view of the ocean over here. The storm surge is pretty crazy. Look how choppy it is out there. And now you can see those wind gusts hitting the palm trees right there. Pretty powerful. Obviously, not a lot of people out this morning, but if you are out here in Ocean City, please stay safe. The wind is really the big thing, and we're just expecting it to get worse. So for now, reporting live in Ocean City, I'm Olivia Dance, Fox 45 Morning News.
All right, thanks, Olivia. It looks like it's picking up out there. This is a live look from our storm tracker with conditions in Dunbar. He's waiting there at the light, and you can just see the roads are slick. Make sure you're using extra caution today as you stay out there. We do have an incident we want to report for right now. The Lens Solar Traffic Network showing this accident here. This is on the outer loop of I-695, Wilkins Avenue. We've got 3 vehicles that are involved in this crash off the shoulder. Now, there are 2 traffic lanes that are closed right now, so if you're heading this way, be careful. You can download the Weather Authority app. The Storm Center will be right in your hands. It's free. WBFF Weather Authority app in your app store. All you've got to do is search WBFF. We're back and we're taking you live to North Carolina and Virginia, where people up and down the coast are preparing for those heavy winds, flooding, as Tropical Storm Ophelia made landfall near Emerald Isle, North Carolina, around 6:15 this morning. 70-mile-per-hour winds have left tens of thousands without power, and flooding, wind gusts is affecting those as well outside of the storm center. It's making its way up the East Coast as we speak. Let's get over to meteorologist Justin Chambers with an update of where that storm is headed.
Yeah, the center of that storm, Taylor, is going to be moving right over the Carolinas and right up into southern Virginia, eventually to the southern end of the Chesapeake Bay, and then closer to us as well. This is a look at our HD radar right now, and you can see just how large that wind field is and how large the storm is. I mean, the center is right there toward the bottom of your screen that, as we mentioned, just made landfall in North Carolina. But look at those outer bands that extend up through Baltimore, Philly, all the way up to New York City. So those are some of those outer bands from the storm. We'll get a break here in the next few hours from the rain, but the rain and wind will pick back up as the center of that storm continues to track to the north and right toward us. So that's why we've got all sorts of tropical storm warnings. We've got coastal flood warnings as well. We're going to have to deal with high tide here in a little bit. That means some of that water is going to be coming right up the Chesapeake and all of the wind and the rain that we'll have to deal with from this storm. So we'll have another closer look for you. We'll talk about what is expected for tomorrow as well, with more of that rain that's going to be here before we finally start to see this thing move out of here. Back to you.
All right, thanks, Justin. A convicted felon is back on the run, racking up multiple warrants for his arrest. Here's Alexa Ashwell with Maryland's Most Wanted.
Investigators fear this man, Larry Cooper, is continuing to live a life of crime, specifically involving drugs here in Baltimore. He's been on the run for nearly 2 years, and now agents need your help tracking him down. August 2021, Towson, Maryland. Investigators say a man is found unconscious but breathing outside this McDonald's on York Road. He's identified as 31-year-old Larry Cooper. In his pockets, investigators say officers find crack cocaine and heroin. The crack cocaine packaged in what the United States DEA warns is a Baltimore area drug trend known as trash cans, colorful plastic lidded vials smaller than a penny and often haphazardly packaged with fentanyl. Investigators say officers find 32 trash cans in Cooper's possession. He's booked on possession and distribution charges. But months later, Cooper is granted pretrial release. Little did investigators know it was the last time any law enforcement agency would see or hear from him.
He came out, was lucky enough to get out of jail.
Lucky enough because at the time of this arrest, investigators say Cooper was already a convicted felon and on parole. His criminal history messy and dating back more than a decade. Court records show previous arrests or convictions for attempted drug distribution, burglary, assault, and a sex offense. And in some of these cases, Cooper was accused of violating his probation, resulting in even more jail time.
Mr. Cooper was sentenced to almost 10 years in jail.
Fast forward to this latest Towson arrest. The looming charges have now led to additional warrants for probation violations.
Mr. Cooper has a lengthy criminal history, from CDS sales to assault, and also failure to check in with his probation officer.
So where is Cooper? Any idea Mr. Cooper's whereabouts?
One of the issues that we're having with Mr. Cooper is he is believed to be homeless and living on the street. He's known to frequent West Baltimore.
Specifically, investigators say Penn North, a known struggling area when it comes to drugs.
Baltimore in general has a high drug rate. We have a lot of overdoses in Baltimore. He is frequenting areas that are known for people that want to buy drugs.
A history of drugs, violence, and failing to report. Investigators stress Cooper must be found.
Part of that being in prison is to learn the lesson.
Take a good look. Cooper stands about 5'9", 5'10", and weighs approximately 245 pounds. Investigators do believe he's homeless, likely living somewhere in the Baltimore area. So if you have any information regarding his whereabouts, you're asked to contact the U.S. Marshal Service. The tip line number right here, 1-877-WANTED-2. Or you can contact agents directly at 202-819-5058. Remember, you can always remain anonymous, and you could earn a reward. I'm Alexa Ashwell, and this is Maryland's Most Wanted.
We are tracking a tropical storm Ophelia making its way up the East Coast. Meteorologist Justin Chambers lets you know when the worst is expected to hit. You're watching Fox 45 Morning News, Weekend Edition, all local, all morning. Packets. Work on this. All right, let's get back on over to meteorologist Justin Chambers for an update on where that storm is expected to hit us here in our region. First, let's get on over there. Oh my goodness, this camera, Justin.
Well, there's a lot of wind and rain that we're seeing out there, Taylor, right now, and these are some of the outer bands that we are looking at moving in. So definitely kind of foggy right now, tough to even see. Some of us have already seen some of the heavier rain that has moved through from our Toyota Inner Harbor Skycam. Our weather alert day, this is what we were talking about yesterday, and this is why we're weather alert now, tracking Ophelia, which made landfall about an hour ago. Heavy rain and wind and that coastal flooding that will continue to be an issue. The wind is really whipping up in parts of Ocean City, but even here at home, we're seeing some 20 and 30 mile an hour wind gusts. You can kind of see that wind right there, even down through Easton and Stevensville. Annapolis seeing a 32 mile an hour gust, 25 mile an hour gust in Baltimore, 28 in Bel Air. And this is just the beginning because this wind will continue to increase. When you kind of zoom out a little bit, you can really see the core of where that wind is picking up in that area in pink right there for the Ocean City area and the eastern shores where we're seeing some of the strongest wind gusts right now. So that's what we're looking at, the wind and the rain. Here's the rainfall that we're seeing on our HD radar. Heaviest rain is just north of Chestertown on the eastern shore. That's crossing across over toward APG and up into Elkton, right into Baltimore City and County along the 95 corridor. When you go south down through Severn and Bowie into Parole and areas in Anne Arundel County, a little bit of a break here, but a couple of light showers here and there. The heaviest rain continues to be right here. And when you zoom out, you can kind of see what's going on. These are some of those really outer bands or outer bands because the center of that storm is still about 300 miles away. That's where you can see that here just south of Greenville, North Carolina. So made landfall earlier this morning. We'll continue to track up toward Virginia and eventually the mouth of the Chesapeake, but that's going to bring all of that wind and rain to us and also that coastal flooding potential. Here's a look at the track of Tropical Storm Ophelia as we get into early tomorrow morning. The center of the storm will be around Richmond. Then it will come right toward the edge of the Chesapeake by tomorrow afternoon. So southern Maryland is when we're going to see potentially still as a tropical depression with those wind speeds that'll be in anywhere from that 50 to 60 mile an hour range. And then it will continue to track out to the north and to the east as well. The storm surge is what we're looking at. 1 to 3 feet possible Central, all the areas here in blue, which is all of us here in the Chesapeake and areas in Central Maryland. Let's put that future scan into motion. Bit of a break here through 10 a.m., but right about 1, 2 o'clock this afternoon, more of that rain is going to pick up. That's going to continue to track toward about 3 and 4 o'clock this afternoon, even into 7 and 8 o'clock tonight. So basically just kind of waves of rain, even though we get breaks here and there, more of that heavier rain will be with us. And it's going to continue into tomorrow morning as well. This is 5 o'clock on Sunday morning. Notice some of those areas in orange and red indicating some more of that moderate rain. That'll continue through Sunday morning by about 10 a.m. And we know we have a Ravens game tomorrow afternoon. A lot of wind and rain that's going to still be there at M&T Bank Stadium. In terms of our rainfall totals, we're still going to pick up another good 1 to 2 to possibly 3 inches once we get through Sunday night. So again, there's more rain to come with this storm system. Even though we're getting some of that good rain now, more is on the way. There's that 7-day forecast. So weather alert day today. We're not expecting to be weather alert tomorrow. May have to shift into that though, because we're still going to be talking about the wind and rain, and temperatures that are going to be cool will stay into the 60s. Finally, a little bit drier toward the middle of next week.
The Orioles with a close loss to the Guardians in enemy territory. Rocco DeSangro breaks down the matchup that's just ahead in your Sports Unlimited.
Welcome into your morning sports report. I'm Rocco DeSangro. Entering last night, the O's magic number to win the AL East, it was down to 7. And that goes down one of 2 ways. 1, a Birds win. 2, a Rays loss. But if both happen on the same day, that number will go down by 2. It's quick math, people. O's with their eyes on the prize, and they came out of the gate swinging. Anthony Santander doubles to right to get the scoring started. Then he'd score in the inning on a wild pitch. That makes it 2-0 O's, but the Guardians would tie it in the first, then take the lead in the second when Miles Straw drives in this go-ahead run. Dean Kramer, 3 1/3, 6 runs on 7 hits. 3 of those runs earned. Not an ideal start for Dean. Fast forward to the 9th. This is where things got crazy. These highlights don't really do this game justice. Aaron Hicks, how about that? 2-run double gives the O's the lead. Orioles magic is alive and well, or so we thought, because in the bottom half of the frame, David Fry hits this one to the wall off Yenier Cano. The tying run scores, and here comes Will Brennan. Guardians walk off the O's 9-8, a heartbreaker. The final score.
Yeah, that's a tough loss. I mean, we just didn't pitch well tonight. We got beat by so many advantage count mistakes that just can't, it's gonna be tough, but hung in there, got a really nice rally there in the ninth to go up one. But then another 2-strike mistake to lead off the inning, and it's tough. It's a tough loss.
All right, bad news. The O's lost. Good news, you're looking at it. Blue Jays taking on the Rays. Toronto, bases juiced in the 6th. Dalton Varsho lines a Kevin Kelly pitch back up the middle. That brings in Vlad Guerrero Jr. 4-1 Jays. 9th inning, Blue Jays with a 5-2 lead. Varsho just putting the cherry on top as the Jays beat the Rays 6-2, the final score. So with the O's loss and the Rays loss, the Birds lead in the AL East. That just remains at 1.5 games. More importantly, that magic number to win the AL East is now down to 6. Ahead of Game 2 with the Guardians, the O's called up right-hander Tyler Wells from AAA to give the bullpen some help. Wells pitched 2 innings in last night's game, striking out 1 and retiring all 6 batters he faced. Here he is before the game on getting called back up to the bigs.
I mean, it feels great. I miss the guys a lot. Excited to come back and contribute, and just really focused on enjoying my time with the guys, and then once it gets between the lines, take care of business.
Let's go to the NFL. The Colts have ruled out quarterback Anthony Richardson for Sunday's game against the Ravens while he remains in concussion protocol. That means that Gardner Minshew is going to get the start against the Ravens. So good thing the Ravens are prepared to face both. While the Colts will be without Richardson and starting center Ryan Kelly, the Ravens have been dealing with some significant injuries of their own. 7 players have been ruled out for this Sunday's showdown with the Colts. Odell Beckham Jr. and outside linebacker Odafe Owe, they're both dealing with ankle issues. And you got running back Justice Hill, he's dealing with a foot injury. Marlon Humphrey, Tyler Linderbaum, Ronnie Stanley, and Marcus Williams, they've all been ruled out again. So at what point do all of these injuries become a concern for head coach John Harbaugh?
It becomes a concern if they're going to be season-ending injuries. I think those are the ones that you really hope to avoid and you pray to avoid. And we've had 2 of those. We've had J.K. and possibly Ardarius. Now, that's not set in stone yet. The rest of the guys are a few weeks, a week, 2 weeks. We thought we might have a couple guys back this week. They'll be working for next week, so they're right in that range.
Ravens play the Colts Sunday at 1, and the Orioles' magic number to win the AL East now down to 6. That's it for your morning sports report. I'm Rocco DeSangro. Have a great Saturday.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 Morning News.
All right, we are back with a live look over the Inner Harbor, Towson, Ocean City, and our storm tracker. We're tracking Tropical Storm Ophelia as it made landfall this morning in North Carolina. Those 70-mile-per-hour winds already knocked out power down there as we see damaging winds, heavy rain push its way up the East Coast here. Thanks for being with us this Saturday, September 23rd. I'm Taylor Stewart. Let's get over to Olivia Dance in a few minutes, who's going to have live conditions in Ocean City. But first, we're going to start with meteorologist Justin Chambers with an update on the storm and its path and the impact we're already seeing. Justin.
Yeah, good morning, Taylor. Really seeing that wind pick up in Ocean City, and we'll check with Olivia here in just a second. But we're already seeing some wind and definitely seeing the rain right here in Baltimore. This is that live look here from our downtown Baltimore camera. Overall, you can see the rain on that camera lens there. We're tracking Ophelia. This is our weather alert day, the heavy rain and wind. And even if we get a break in the next couple of hours, there is more of that rain and wind to come throughout the day today. Could see some possible coastal flooding as well as we head into the later part of the afternoon. So here's our current HD radar. And look at that line of moderate rain from Baltimore City and Baltimore County right along the 95 corridor. It heads out toward APG and Hartford and Cecil counties. Eastern Shore, a bit of a break from the rain right now down to the south of Severn and Bowie. You're also seeing a little bit less rain, but over toward Cockeysville, up into parts of Carroll and northern Baltimore County is where we're seeing that heaviest rain right now. And it's all well to the north of the center of this storm. And as Taylor mentioned, making landfall a little while ago right there just south of Greenville, North Carolina. That's going to continue to track up toward Virginia and eventually to the mouth of the Chesapeake in southern Maryland, where we have those tropical storm warnings continuing. But there's the spinning atmosphere that we're seeing here with that system, and not much in the way of lightning strikes, which is good, but obviously the rain and the wind knocking out power to those folks. Here's a look at our current wind gusts, anywhere from 25 to 34 miles an hour. Just picked up that wind gust there in Annapolis, and then as you zoom out, you can really see that stronger wind out through Ocean City and Georgetown at 40 and 40 mile an hour wind gusts, and even 45 in some of those areas on the eastern shore. So here's a look at your out and aboutcast. Temps not doing too much, upper 50s and lower 60s for the next couple of hours, keeping the rain and wind with us throughout the day today. We're back with your full forecast in just a few.
All right, thanks, Justin. We're taking you live now to Ocean City, where, as you just heard Justin say, wind gust already up to 40 miles per hour. Let's go ahead and take you straight to Olivia Dance, who's there right now near the beach, near the water. What does it feel like? What are you seeing?
Hey, Taylor, yeah, I'm standing as sturdy as I can, because when these wind gusts come, they make you lose your balance, so you really have to stand with your feet apart, make sure you're safe that way. And we've moved. We were in the parking garage last time you saw us, but now we are on the beach, or at least as close as we can get to the water where we feel safe. Obviously, you can see these waves. These are massive waves. This storm surge is obvious from this view now that we're here on the sand. The wind really is the biggest thing, and actually right now it's not raining. It was raining earlier this morning. We even see some blue sky here, so you can see that's very evident of the bands of the storm that are coming in, because it kind of calms down, the rain stops, and then all of a sudden you see the darker clouds. That's coming this way, and it's going to start raining heavy again. But the wind is the one thing that is very consistent. That's been consistent all night. We could hear howling last night. It woke me up at 1:08. So yeah, definitely very powerful. As Chris said, Chris our photojournalist is panning the camera around here. You can also see the evidence of the wind. Right here, actually, this is basically a sand dune that has now been formed this way because of the wind blowing the sand. So that is an evidence of just how powerful this wind is. And we really haven't seen a lot of people out this morning, but we do see some people on their balconies watching as this storm comes in. Of course, if you are out, please stay safe. With now reporting live in Ocean City, I'm Olivia Dance, Fox 45 Morning News.
All right, we're taking a live look now from our storm tracker this morning. Currently on 83 North, heavy rain, wind already affecting visibility out there. The roads are slick. You're going to want to keep those wipers on and stick with us here at Fox 45 Morning News. All right, switching gears here now. Baltimore City is grappling with a 220% increase in auto thefts. That's more than 770,000 cars stolen this year alone. Attorney Kirk Nachman with Ian Lawyers is here to break down some of the numbers and talk about why only 3%, as you see, end in an arrest. Good morning to you.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm doing well, but we got a lot of questions because this increase we're seeing is alarming. And when you think about the number of folks who are getting away with this crime, it makes you wonder what truly are the ramifications for stealing a car in Baltimore
Right.
City.
Well, right. And so the maximum penalty that you could face for stealing a motor vehicle or motor vehicle theft or motor vehicle taking, it carries a penalty of a maximum of 5 years in prison. But not only that, stolen car, it's actually kind of a difficult crime to prove, right? Because a lot of times people will take a vehicle, they'll joyride in it, and then they'll dump it somewhere and not leave a huge amount of evidence as to who took it, how it was taken. And I think, the third rail as to why things have increased so much is there was a viral TikTok video that was going around in the last sort of 12 to 18 months, exploiting some security vulnerabilities for, I believe it's Kias and Hyundais.
Mm-hmm.
And so a huge percentage of that increase is youths taking these cars through the security vulnerability and just kind of going joyriding in these vehicles.
And we talk about carjackings and auto thefts, I think, interchangeably, but they're not. Carjackings, there's been 380 so far this year. That is a scary crime. Let's not take away from the fact that stealing someone's family car, upends at someone's life. But talk about the danger that has now come along with this sharp increase we've seen.
Right. So carjacking carries a maximum penalty of 30 years, and it's the taking of a motor vehicle from a person by force or threat of force. It's essentially robbery of a car. So in other words, a motor vehicle theft, car gets stolen out of your driveway, gets stolen off your street, someone's joyriding in it. Carjacking is actually where they're coming and taking the vehicle while you are in possession of it, taking your keys, taking, whatever's in the car. God forbid there's a child in the car, and so it's certainly a much more serious crime and treated as such by the both adult and juvenile justice system.
You also mentioned that Kias and Hyundais and that TikTok trend that has really showed people how easy it is and embolden folks really to go after people's personal vehicles. What's the difference, though, or what rather is the ramifications for attempted car theft? We've seen lots of videos of people pulling on cars just trying to get a crime of opportunity. Is there any ramification for that?
So there is. You can be charged with an attempt, and it carries the same maximum penalty as the actual substantive crime. You can also be charged with what's called rogue and vagabond, which is a misdemeanor. It's like walking around with like a jimmy to get into a car. Although most vehicles don't work that way anymore, where you can pop a lock with like a tool. And so that carries a maximum penalty of a year. It's the equivalent of a burglary fourth degree. Again, the issue is often comes down to a measure of proof. You really have to catch somebody red-handed in the act of either attempting to break into a vehicle or having possession of the vehicle in order to prove motor vehicle theft.
All right, we'll leave it right there. Kirk Nachman, thank you so much. We'll certainly be talking about this more in the future, unfortunately.
Thanks so much. Have a good day.
Yeah, likewise.
We have a system that's just running rogue, and it starts at the top.
The latest round of test results across the state raising alarm in Baltimore City. Just ahead, Project Baltimore's Chris Papps explains the testing data and what it all means. All right, we're back, and we're taking you live to North Carolina and Virginia, where folks up and down the coast, they are bracing for, if not already experiencing, excuse me, heavy winds and flooding from Tropical Storm Ophelia. It made landfall near Emerald Isle in North Carolina this morning. Winds reaching 70 miles per hour have already knocked out power for thousands of folks, and flooding, along with wind gusts, is affecting those outside of the storm center. It's making its way up the East Coast as we speak. Let's get over to meteorologist Justin Chambers with where that storm is headed.
It's an interesting shot on the right side there. I'm not sure where that is. Those folks just kind of strolling along that pier, but we'll continue to show you what's going on up and down the East Coast with more of this storm system that is again now on land. Tracking Ophelia as our weather alert day continues. Heavy rain and wind. Coastal flooding will be possible today. Here's a look at our current HD radar, and look at that band of showers there from Columbia and Towson, northern edge of the Beltway, all the way out through Bel Air, Edgewood, Perryville, getting hit with the heaviest rain right now. Notice the lightning strike counter, though, it's at 0, so we're only seeing the moderate to heavy rain. When you zoom out a little bit farther, you can actually see less of that rainfall in the eastern shore. Chestertown, Easton, down through Cambridge, actually a bit of a break. Even Annapolis seeing a break in the rain. We're seeing some showers in D.C., but that heaviest rain right now is focused along the 95 corridor, and you can see how far away we are from the center of the storm, which made landfall, as she mentioned just a little while ago, about 2 hours now, as it is tracking up through the Carolinas. That's going to move into Virginia and eventually to the southern edge of the Chesapeake for southern Maryland. We're already seeing 18 to 34 mile-an-hour wind gusts, so this is just the start of what we are going to see. And when you look at this picture here, you can really see how strong that wind is, especially Georgetown out through Ocean City, just picking up a 43 mile-an-hour wind gust. So that puts it at tropical storm force wind in terms of the gusts that we're seeing at this time. We'll have another look at what we can expect with this storm and how it's going to play out for the rest of today and into tomorrow as well. That's coming up in a few.
Math proficiency in city schools raising concern once again. We sit down with a community activist to see how bad it is and where we need to go to improve. Plus, we're tracking Tropical Storm Ophelia as it makes its way up the East Coast. Meteorologist Justin Chambers will time it out for you just ahead. You're watching Fox 45 Morning News, all local, all morning.
All right, welcome back, everybody. This is what it looks like here from our downtown Baltimore camera at this time. And you can see that rain is right through the center of downtown. And we're also seeing a lot of heavy rain, especially in northern Baltimore County up along the 95 corridor. I'll show you that radar here in just a second. But this is what's going on with our weather alert day. This is what we were talking about yesterday. We've been tracking this thing all week. So the tropical storm officially making landfall at 6:15 this morning right there in Emerald Isle, North Carolina, south of Greenville, North Carolina. Heavy rain and wind is what we'll continue to track here throughout the day today with coastal flooding that will be possible. Here's a look at some of the wind gusts right now at about 18 to 34 miles an hour, and really kicking up for you there in Annapolis at this hour, 19-mile-an-hour wind gusts there in Baltimore. But when you look at a little bit further, this is what we were talking about with those 40-mile-an-hour wind gusts we're already seeing in Ocean City, even down through California, the southern end of Maryland and the Chesapeake right there. So that's where we're seeing that wind right now. It is going to continue to pick up as this storm moves closer to us, or the center of that storm. Here's a look at some of the radar returns that we're seeing. And look at that, Cockeysville out toward Elkton, right along 95 out into APG. We are seeing that moderate rain, and that's what we're seeing with the oranges and the yellows there. And you look out a little bit farther, even down toward Ocean City, where Olivia was broadcasting live. You can see there's a break there. We're actually seeing that sun that popped through, which is very common when we see these storms. So you get those little breaks in the cloud cover, and that's when you see the thinking everything is fine, but we know that there's more to come, because there it is right there, the center, just south of Greenville, North Carolina, tracking up into Virginia. Here's the track on this thing, still going to be maintaining tropical storm force strength. Now, the latest update from the National Hurricane Center has the maximum wind speeds down to 65 miles an hour. Now that it's over land, will continue to weaken, but we still have a very large wind field, and still will be more than likely a tropical depression by tomorrow afternoon as it gets closer to us, with more of that wind and rain that's coming in. The storm surge, the biggest thing, the high tide at the Patapsco this afternoon, just after 1 o'clock. So that's when we have to watch for the inundation, possibly 1 to 3 feet in terms of our storm surge potential, especially all of those low-lying areas. So we'll stay weather alert today, possible weather alert for tomorrow. The Ravens game is going to be wet and windy. Temperatures mainly in the mid to upper 60s here. Definitely cooler for the first week of fall.
Jason Rodriguez,
This is educational homicide.
is with people empowered by the struggle.
There is no excuse.
In 2021,
Enough is enough.
the Baltimore-based nonprofit held rallies calling on Baltimore City School CEO Dr. Sonia Santelises to resign over low test scores, falling graduation rates, and a lack of transparency. Now, after seeing what Project Baltimore just discovered, Rodriguez is renewing those calls.
We have a system that's just running rogue, and it starts at the top.
Rodriguez is reacting to these new 2023 state test scores, which have not yet been released to the public. FOX45 obtained them through a source in Baltimore City schools. The unredacted state test results at every school in the city. And what we found is hard to believe. Students took the test in the spring of 2023. Just a few months ago, we found 13 city high schools where not one student who took the state math test scored proficient. Not one student. These are the 13 schools, which includes some of the city's most well-known high schools like Patterson, Frederick Douglass, and Reginald F. Lewis. In total, students at 33 high schools took the state math exam last spring. In our analysis, we are not including Eager Street Academy because it's located inside the Baltimore City Detention Center. Of the 32 high schools remaining, if 13 had 0 students test proficient, that means 40% of all Baltimore City high schools could not produce a single student who's doing math at grade level. But that's not the only alarming finding we made. In these 13 high schools, more than 1,700 students took the test, and nearly 1,300, or 74.5%, scored a 1 out of 4, the lowest level, meaning those students are not even close to being proficient. And keep in mind, last school year, Baltimore City Schools received $1.6 billion from taxpayers. the most ever. The district also received an additional $799 million from the federal government in COVID relief funding. Yet still, not a single student at 13 city high schools tested proficient in math.
So it's not a funding issue. We're getting plenty of funding. I don't think money is the issue. I think accountability is the issue.
6 years ago, in 2017, Project Baltimore produced a similar report where we analyzed state test scores and found 13 city schools had 0 students proficient in math. And many of the schools from 2017 are also on the 2023 list, including Achievement Academy, Coppin Academy, Frederick Douglass, New Era, Patterson, and the Reach.
We're still dealing with these same issues year after year. It's just scary to me and alarming to me because we know that what's happening now, is just opening up the floodgates to the school-to-prison pipeline.
City schools will not do an interview to discuss these results. Instead, we received a statement which states, "We acknowledge that some of our high school students continue to experience challenges in math following the pandemic." The statement also said recent increases in funding have increased student achievement. The district says in 7 of 8 grade levels, math proficiencies increased in 2023 compared to 2022.
I'm beyond angry. This is why we've been calling for the resignation of the school CEO.
It's important to note we're only able to report these test scores to the public because a source gave them to us. When the state officially releases them later this month, the results will be heavily redacted, making it more difficult for parents to see how poorly many schools are performing. Earlier this year, the state began further redacting state test scores after Project Baltimore reported on last year's poor outcomes. With State Superintendent Mohammed Chaudhry no longer seeking a second term, we asked the school board if it plans to reverse course and make more information concerning test scores available to the public. We were told the board has no comment. But when we were looking at the test scores we do have, we made another stunning discovery. Coming up on Wednesday on Fox 45 News, we'll tell you what we learned about the top 5 performing high schools in the city. I'm Chris Pabst, and this is Project Baltimore.
All right, let's add a bit more context to this latest Project Baltimore finding that we just heard from Chris Pabst. Community activist Shannon Wright is joining us right now. Good morning, Shannon.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm doing well, but I want to jump right into this because there's a major point that Chris Pabst made that 6 years ago, 2017, Project Baltimore produced a similar report. Then 13 schools had 0 students test proficient in math. Right now we're back at 2023. 13 seems to be the magic number. What does it say that we're still at a place where there's 13 schools where the students tested there are not proficient in math?
It says that we're going in the wrong direction, number one. It says leadership of the education system and the city as a whole are not paying proper attention and giving the value to this issue that we need to. There are renewed calls for Dr. Santelises to resign, and I do really believe she needs to go. When you did the story previously, students that were in elementary and middle school are now the students that are in high school. So that means Dr. Santelises has been at the helm, seeing the progression and the breakdown, continued breakdown of the education system. It has not improved on her watch at all.
And I do want to push back a little bit. They've been clear that this is not an overnight process. It's going to take time. We don't want to take away from all the factors that contribute to the issues in city schools. But does the fact that there are 6 schools that were on that previous report, the same 6 schools now on this report that was just released, showing that the students aren't testing well, does that indicate a need for a change in direction?
Absolutely, it does. Again, the students that are testing now were in elementary and middle school when Dr. Santelises started. If she was the leader for our district, she would have been able to make and implement changes at elementary and middle so that by high school, since it's not an overnight change and she hasn't just been here for a minute, that we would start to see the positive changes, and we're not. The fact that we still have schools with 0 students proficient in math is very alarming. The fact that our mayor is doubling down on his support of Dr. Santelises and freely releasing all of the city funds to the Board of Education is disturbing. The next mayor in this city needs to take leadership and ownership and do everything they can to change the education trajectory of our students in the city.
All right, Ms. Fright, we'll pick up this conversation. We'll be back in just a few minutes here on Fox 45 Morning News as we continue to track your storm and your local coverage.
All right, everybody, this is what we're looking at, tracking Ophelia on our weather alert day. This is the current HD radar. Look at that band of heavy rain from Eldersburg over to Cockeysville and Towson, out through Bel Air, over toward Perryville. Now, notice the break on the right side of your screen. So we are going to see some pockets where we won't see the heavy rain, but it is going to reoccur as we get into the afternoon. So you can see that on your 10-day forecast. The weather alert day will continue all day today. We may need weather alert for tomorrow as well. Notice our temperatures are only in the 60s. We are now officially in autumn. And Taylor, let me tell you, we are going off the air a little bit early because we have, of course, football on today. We've got some programming that's coming up in just a bit. So we're going to go on Facebook Live in just a little bit. So you can check me out there on the Fox 45 Facebook page. I'll be doing a full Facebook Live on what we're talking about with the storm system. This is a day where you want to stay inside.